Let's circle back to parasympathetic and sympathetic. We've kind of thrown that word around there quite a bit. For somebody that's maybe not, versed in this terminology, obviously we're talking fight or flight here, obviously. What can people be looking for to understand if they're sympathetic and or parasympathetic? And if they recognize that they're constantly in a sympathetic state, what are some of those practical tools that we can begin to now pull these levers on to get us into that constantly parasympathetic state?
Beautiful. And let's talk about this even at like a higher philosophical level. In many cultures, there's been the concept of the yin and the yang. We have the idea of the rest balanced with the activity. And it's mirrored in just the cycles of light on this planet. Like we have the daytime and into the nighttime. And the nervous system also is bifurcated with these two kinds of modes. We have the very active mode where the heart rate is elevated, blood pressure is elevated. We're looking to increase exercise output and we're decreasing immune system function because we're not looking at responding to long term threats. That is a sympathetic drive. It is what we experience when we take stimulants. It's what we experience when we get very scared, when we get anxious, when we go sprint or we do something highly activating. That is the go mode for the nervous system. And it is very important for health in the human system to be able to go into go mode and to be able to maintain that and to have high output, but to return immediately back to baseline. And that is the baseline when we're relaxed and we're able to rest is the parasympathetic mode of the nervous system. And this is literally like mirrored physically. Like we have branches of the nervous system that have different bundles of nerves and that go out into the different organs and body systems and are also rooted in different brain patterns and brain waves that dictate whether we're in the relaxed state, the parasympathetic, or the fight or flight state, or just the aggressive state or the explosion state. And so training is really cool because it's a chance to get into a sympathetic hard charging drive. But we all know, those of us that exercise, is it's actually the growth and the repair that happens in the parasympathetic aspect of the system. And in fact, if anyone's done a fitness contest prep and your body's in a constantly stressed state from a high level of exercise, from low calories, which is also a stress for the body, and on top of that, stimulants, you are going to be in a state where your body's not very healthy, even though you're losing body fat. That is an overly sympathetic drive, and eventually it burns you out. And it can lead to all sorts of fatigue, nutrient deficiencies, stress, anxiety, trouble sleeping. So the longest living creatures on the planet and the longest living humans can maintain a predominantly parasympathetic tone. And can be largely just experienced through your breath and through your heart rate. This comes from a little bit of the yogi Eastern philosophy, but they basically say if you can get to the point where you're taking around 6 breaths per minute, so that means you're having an inhale exhale cycle that is around 10 seconds, you're going to live a very, very long life. This means you're breathing deep and slow, because the first thing that changes when you're in a sympathetic state is your heart rate increases and your respiration rate increases. And if you're out in public next time and you look, or maybe you're on an airplane, you can just start to look and watch the people next to you and see how many breaths they're roughly taking per minute. Most people on average are going to have, most Americans are probably going to be 12 up to 20 respirations per minute. And it's because their cardiovascular system has to work more. They're not getting these complete breaths. And we know from this whole field of people doing different kind of breath work stuff, Wim Hof, that we can use the breath to tap into these different branches of the nervous system and create a lot of relaxation. Another good analogy to think about this is the longest living creatures on the planet maintain a parasympathetic tone. And the shortest living creatures are in sympathetic fight or flight. So part of this is genetics, but a lot of it's because sympathetic does not coincide with a long life. Like a mouse lives for 18 months. A tortoise can live for 108 years or longer. And the tortoise is just chilling. It's eating lettuce. It's super slow. It has an armored shell, not worried about anything eating it. It's in a parasympathetic dominant tone. The mouse is freaking out all the time, worried about all sorts of things killing it, constantly looking for food, fast metabolism, lots of stress hormones. So that creature is in sympathetic tone. And what's amazing about the human system is we can do physical inputs to help tonify the nervous system. So things like using sauna or cold plunge or exercise, these are things that get us into a sympathetic tone and then return us back to baseline. Like that's very powerful and very healing. But more importantly, I think it's the impact of our stimulant use as well as our just mental, emotional scripts and patterns and how we relate to our life. This is why when a lot of people start to meditate or get into prayer or even have some kind of spiritual religious awakening where they kind of surrender that concept of I need to be in control and get into that kind of trust, they find that they feel so much better because the nervous system is perceiving safety. It can relax. It can put the guard down. And this is exactly experienced as a parasympathetic tone. Now, if you have one of these aura rings or any kind of monitor or tracker of some sort, one of the main biological indicators of a parasympathetic tone is called heart rate variability, HRV, which is basically the fact that your heart is constantly beating. And you can almost think of it as your heart has a certain number of beats in your lifetime. And the more that's constantly driving through a increased sympathetic stressed rate, you're kind of like taking up those heartbeats, if you will. And the fact that when you're in a parasympathetic tone, those heart rate beats are not as continuous. They're not like a perfect metronome that's like boom, 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 boom. Like that's my attempt at perfect. Good HRV is where it's more like boom, 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 boom. It's like has more variability in that. And that heart rate when the parasympathetic tone is activated is effectively going to be give you more of that variability. Now, the main nerve that drives the parasympathetic nervous system tone is the vagus nerve. And what's amazing about this nerve is it literally runs from your brain through your heart to your digestive system, which is this sacred connection between these three powerful energy centers that we do have: the brain, the heart, in the gut. And the vagus nerve is going to help dictate and keep those things in healthy alignment. And when you are in a sympathetic tone at rest all the time because you're stressed out or using too many stimulants, it naturally affects your digestive system. Where do people feel like they feel anxiety? In their stomachs, that pit in the stomach feel. What happens when people are too stressed out? They can get stomach ulcers, literally, which is a change in like the actual mucosa of the stomach, or indigestion or issues. And then the heart too, right? The heart beats so much faster, and then the mind feels more stressed. So we can do a lot of things nutritionally and with exercise, but also with breathing and meditation to maintain parasympathetic. I feel like that's enough of a high level primer, and then we can drill down wherever you want to go.
No, that's great, man. Do you follow modern day bodybuilding at all? Like the
I
current
do.
Mr. Olympia?
I just watched the last Mr. Olympia. Yeah.
Yeah, so Derek Lunsford. So
Yep.
quick story here. Derek moved down to Tampa in 2017 to train
Hmm.
with Ben Polkowski at MI40. I was training with
Nice.
Ben. I was helping run some workshops over there at the gym
Cool.
at the time. Derek comes down, starts training with this small little group that we had. And Ben was called the bodybuilding yogi back then. He was talking about some of these concepts back in 2014, 2015. Like he used to take us through mindfulness meditation practices after our training sessions. He pointed something out about Derek because he had this slow, calm demeanor. I mean, he would get off of a set of like squatting 405. He would just be chilling. He said, watch this kid because his nervous system operates at a different level than everybody else. He called it back then that just genetically he had this ability to just constantly be in a parasympathetic state. For those that don't know, Derek was a 212 Mr. Olympia champion, and then this year he won the actual Mr. Olympia, the first person ever to take the 212 title and the Mr. Olympia title. And Ben would tell you probably massively due to obviously he's got the ability, he's got incredible work ethic, but it's this parasympathetic state. Like the dude is just chill, calm all the time. So it's so resonating that we're kind of here right now. We're talking about
Yeah.
all of this. So really,
And
really, really love.
parasympathetic is anabolic. Sympathetic is catabolic.
Mm-hmm.
All of the hormones that are released in the sympathetic nervous system are catabolic hormones. They're here to break down glucose, actually break down muscle tissue, to liberate amino acids if needed. And the parasympathetic is actually where you're getting mTORs being activated. It often happens too when you're having feeding and there's nutrient sensitivity coming in and stuff like that. So, yeah, parasympathetic is key. And this is why people feel so good on the cold plunges too, because it not only does it give you the immediate dopamine hit and the norepinephrine hit, which is like kind of sympathetic, but it teaches you how to like actually calm down in the presence of a big stimulus. And I think if you can do that, you're going to live a longer and healthier life. And that's also why any mindfulness practice, meditation, prayer, anything that enables you to look at those recurring thoughts and calm the mind down is going to be key for a long, healthy life.